Check one, check one. Check one.
It's good.
Good. Microphone runners. There's one. Microphone runner. There's two. All right. Victor. Beautiful. Boy.
Yeah, racist.
Okay. Let's get underway. Thank you very much for being here. Again, thanks for the great interest. We've kind of moved up the setup because I know there's too much congestion in the back, so hopefully this works. Hopefully you all can see enough of the screen. We will continue our work with de-churching. I listened to the session last week with Pastor Ron, and that was awesome. He kind of just summed it up. We can just finish up. Really, no. We're going to get to some concrete suggestions, learnings today, as well as continuing to wrestle with some of the data. One of the cool things about this topic is that I've been getting newspaper articles from you all the time. We are on the cutting edge because it's all over the place. This one is on the black churches having a Gen Z problem. They aren't coming anymore is the title. The person that gave this to me underlined a couple of really important things. The internet and social media have replaced much of that in-person discourse. That really has taken over the coming in and meeting and gathering together. This is one of the leaders of the church. Let's see. And it's interesting, I guess, according to the Pew, because Pew Research, you got all kinds of, people jumping in on this question, that black Protestants are especially likely to attend virtual services and are more likely to cite COVID-19 as a reason, according to Pew. They are also more likely to attend online prayer groups or to use apps to remind them to read Scripture. Of those regularly attending virtually, 42% say they felt a great deal of connection to the in-person service while they're watching online. Compared with 72% of those attending in person. Anyway, it goes on. It's really helpful data. I've got actually a whole folder of articles, so I love it. We care, we're concerned. I'm curating resources from these guys and their book. We've got our definition that we've talked about. Here's the phenomenon that we're working with, and we're working with why we think that. I hope you're discovering there's lots of hope. There's lots of hope. But we have started our individual survey. I don't have enough respondents. I only got about 10 people who have filled out our survey. That is, people who are de-churched filling out of our community, friends, family. It's been out there in the e-news. There's a link and other things. A special email is going to go out probably Monday or Tuesday this week with the link that you can share, and also a suggested text. Text, not like a text message, but text for your email, like if you want to forward it to your kid, let's say. I know that's a touchy subject when kids don't come, and as a parent, it's like, boy, I can't really touch that one. But sometimes, maybe it's not. But the great thing about this survey is that it only takes a few minutes, and it might open up some very helpful, fruitful discussion. But we'll get to that in a minute. I got one of the surveys, and it's anonymous unless people want to make known who they are. One of them put on the other part about the de-churching. They said what's turned them off is the accommodating to our culture. The very thing you're doing right now is what they were saying. Now, so that raises the question, though, like if we find out this, and this, are we going to totally change our church to accommodate? Well, not really. But, so the question is, why are we doing this? I'm doing this because I care about people, they're our loved ones, they're your children and grandchildren, and our neighbors, they're members of the church. Again, we have 900 members in this church, and we have right now 300 average being there on a given Sunday. We used to have 375 before COVID. So, and then you throw on the online worshiping, maybe we have more than 375. I don't know how to judge that. But, we have a lot of people who are kind of de-churched. In fact, I had one person this week email me that they had sent a card to someone. And, or I think, they sent an email saying, I just haven't seen you for a while. And they sent back and they said this. Interesting. The household said this back, that, we just fell out of it. We still believe, we still have faith. I guess we've gotten kind of lazy. That's just what they said. That's what they said. Now, maybe there's a deeper reason underneath that. This is an email, after all. I recognize that. But when it comes to this whole concept of casual de-churching, are we not on?
The top of the screen isn't showing online.
Oh,
I
okay.
didn't realize, so.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go back further if you want.
Yeah, I think I need to go back.
Yeah. So, so isn't that interesting that we've talked about some of the de-churching not being like they've got a big issue or something. Some of it's just casual, So there's a lot of hope to reach people, especially in those situations. We're going to move, though, and be talking about how do we reach the people who are casualties of the de-churching movement. And that's where we're going to go in the next, a little bit today and then next week. And then we'll see how far you want to go. I could probably do another 4 or 5 sessions on this if you'd like. But I want to tell you why we're doing this. It's not to accommodate to every person's complaint. It's to listen to their complaint. It's to see what we can do to listen and maybe bend, maybe do some things differently. But I'm not talking about, like for some people would say, well, our way of worship doesn't work in our culture. So throw it out. Do like the other big box churches do. They seem to have tons of young people and families and stuff. Well, that's not who we are. So, and other churches are doing that really good anyway. So, I'm thankful that there's lots of different expressions of the church. So I thought I should clarify that. The other reason we're doing this is because of something that the authors talk about in the Great De-Churching book, is the generational handoff. This is a moment where if we don't do something about the de-churching, we are going to lose a whole generation. Or we're going to have to get them back in some great kind of outreach, movement of the Spirit, and which obviously can happen. But this is what the authors say. The passing of our faith from generation to generation used to be almost assumed, but today the success rate of that handoff is plummeting. So if you are a parent whose kid doesn't come anymore, or whose grandkids don't come, don't feel like you failed. I mean, we always do as parents, right? What should I have done differently? Well, I'm sure there's some things you could have done differently. And the book talks about some of the parenting issues, which, again, we could probably get into that. But nonetheless, it's important that we really get on it. So here's our survey. You'll get it in an email this week, like I say, with that sample text. And then next week, I hope to give you some of the results from ours. So what is the strategy? What are we learning, and what are we going to do differently from this class? And from Pastor Bill having 3 months off to think about this. I think we've already seen from Pastor Ron's work last week and then the weeks before that if there's a significant amount of the de-churching that is not a huge, massive issue, what the authors also found is that when you put everybody together, almost half are willing to come back. What will it take? An invitation. So let's get out there and invite. Let's think about the people who you don't see anymore worshiping with you and reach out. What do we have to lose? Reach out with love. And I understand, because every time I talk to someone that hasn't been coming, it's the law coming, I'm like the sheriff, No, that's not it. I care about you. I miss you. We miss you. Help me understand some more. Was there something? Get the invite. We'd love for you to come back. We got a great youth program. We got a great Sunday school. We got, and then use that survey, like I'm talking about, and let it be the start of conversations. And please, 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 listen. Don't disagree. Oh, you shouldn't feel that way. Nobody can say that. Try not to say that. You could say, for me, wow, that's interesting. For me, but don't, if they come out and start telling you why they're not coming, you say, well, that's wrong. Probably it's not gonna go so well. So have the conversations. That's our probably biggest, most important learning and strategy that can come from this. I think we need a team. If moving is the greatest de-churching event cause, I think we need a team of people here at SLC, not staff, who can work with staff, but are ready to, there's all kinds of services that will give us all the new people moving into our county. We should have a really nice little thing to send them or deliver to their address and just put it up. No door knocking, just put it there. We'd love to have you. This is who we are. We need a team of people that will take that as a ministry. Again, not staff. Staff is maxed out. They're working 100%, going everything. This has to be a congregational thing. So I think that's something we need, because if people typically de-church when they move, we want to be right there. And we're not the only church that's figuring this out. I've gotten like 3 flyers lately. But I haven't moved, and I've had other people bring stuff that they've been sent. But I think particularly the people that have just moved in, and you can get that information from wherever you get that from. We obviously need to revamp and energize our team of people reaching out to our own de-church. Pastor Jonathan, you're going to hear more about this at the annual meeting, with Jessica Voigt now here for the long haul. Thanks be to God that Paul got assigned, her husband in the Navy got assigned to recruitment here in Silver, which is awesome. Yay. So that's very exciting. We're going to be putting more load on her with the youth. We're going to really be making Jonathan more of just an associate with primary support to youth. And this is an area pastoral care and an active calling is going to be probably one of his main focuses. But he can't do that by himself, and so we'll need a team of people. You can email me if you want to be on that team. And you can email me if you want to be on a team to reach newcomers. And when we get critical mass, I'll put you all in touch with each other, and off you can go. But as we're going to talk today, one of the other things when it comes to de-churching is the sense of belonging. So I think we need to think about how can we get more and more people connected to important relational groups. People that will know when you haven't been in church in 3 weeks. I'll probably know, but again, we got 900 members. And I don't know, did you go on a trip? But maybe you're in a small group and you haven't been around for a while, they might give you a call type of thing. So we need to do better there. And then also we need to continue to educate people why they need to be in worship. And that's where we're going to go today. Let me say a prayer. Gracious God, let this new information that we're grappling with bear fruit in our lives and in our church. So give us your Spirit. In Jesus' name, amen. We've already known that their research is showing that in our consumers' digital age, attending has become inconvenient. Many people have concluded that there are other priorities for their time and money. That's definitely a phenomenon. I showed you this graph. This is the biggest one that strikes me, is that of the de-churched mainline, Catholics are just pretty close. 23% think that attending worship services is of something of value. Again, you might think, well, they're not attending, so of course they don't think it's valuable. But look at the other areas. The D-Church evangelicals, 50%. Even though they're not attending, believe attending is important. So that opened up for me, and it's the two things we got from that, and this is still kind of review. Don't assume that because they're not attending, they have had a faith crisis and they don't believe anymore. 70% of the de-churched mainline Protestants still pray regularly, but they're not attending. So that doesn't mean that their faith is gone. That's important. But it also shows me that there's a disconnect. Why do I worship? And I think I'm going to become a huge broken record with continuing to tell you so that when you're tempted to de-church, that you hang in there. Because receiving the word and sacrament is what gives you faith. You need it. That's why we're here. That's the gift, the treasure that the church has been given. And it is, yes, it's about belonging, but it's also about belief and receiving something. So we're gonna work on that. This is the quote that jumped out at me. They found another place to go, but in many cases they did not find the sense of belonging they left behind. So where's the hope? We got to think about how do we help people have that sense of belonging. This is what would bring people back, and they sum it up in this paragraph. What would it take to entice these people back? They told us, this is the author's writing, of course, the desire to make new friends. 28% of the de-church in general, across the board, say new friends. So that's what, 30%? Somewhere between a quarter and a third? That's a lot. So what are they looking for? Friendships, connection. But others would only desire those new friends after a move, 18%. Or if they became lonely. But again, 20% say, if I become lonely, I might think about coming to church to find new friends. For others, all it would take is a friend inviting them or finding a good community. Some would go back if their child or spouse invited them. You know, my mom and dad went to church. We were baptized, but my mom and dad weren't that regular in church, and I don't know, I think it was my brother that said, "Mom, I want to go to Sunday school." So my brother invited my mom back to church, and she was there every Sunday. Somehow I got in the mix there. Or a spouse. That's delicate though, isn't it? That's delicate. You know, you can only do so much. You can invite. You can share with, maybe you're here and you have a spouse that's de-churched that doesn't come. Maybe you can give them the survey and say, "Hey, our church is wondering why people aren't connected to worship. Would you mind filling it out?" And maybe that will start a conversation. I know it's delicate. But again, these are de-churched people. This is what they say might entice them. Well, 18% said, well, that invitation. Finding a good pastor. Well, we've got that here, right? Or a church they like. No! Lightning striking me any second. Find a church they like. Might do it. Then the authors say these are not high or unreasonable bars for the Christian community. I agree. So let's talk about belonging. This is a big reason why people de-church and why they also might return. Millions of people. So when you look at all the numbers of de-churched, even though it's not the 50%, but it's like a quarter to a third of the de-churched, it's relational issues. Millions of people have left church simply because they desired to worship with people they knew and felt loved by, but didn't experience that in their context. So when we go back to the reasons for de-churching, I didn't fit in, I didn't feel much love, these kinds of answers. They desire to worship in a community where they feel like they belong. You are in a small group right now, and I want us to I know it'll be loud, so I know it's hard for some people, but you're either in a group of 4 around one of those small tables, or you're in the back. You can turn and talk to someone right next to you, or if you're at a round table. How can we help nurture for more people a sense of belonging? Would you take just a few minutes to talk amongst your table on that subject? How can we nurture a sense of belonging? Then we'll come back as a large group. Okay?
I think there has to be something outside of what you think this is wrong that brings them some activity, something that brings them like nature's eyes.
Keep going. You do a couple, 2, 3 more minutes. So if you didn't get anything in yet, go for it.
Yeah, and that brought in not only the members, but they all brought their friends. And a lot of those friends were
Everybody in the back field moved to the front. They're not funny as much. Okay, after a while you got what you do. It's so funny, everybody on the left side of the table. No. It was after a while we got used to it. About 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh, I love the conversation. I'm looking forward to a lot of good ideas. 30 more seconds. Finish up your thought. You're talking. Victor, you get that side. Patrick, it's this side. So I'd like to just do some large group for about another 5 to 10 minutes. Some large group. What were some of the gems that came up? And so, come on, let's share them with everybody. Right there, Patrick. Bethany. Yep.
I think to have a sense of belonging, some of the things that we've been talking about are so valuable in terms of how people feel when they're with us. They have to feel safe, not controlled. I think if we're like, oh, the purpose is to get people in seats, they're gonna feel that.
Yes.
Like we are intuitive beings when we don't respond well to feeling controlled.
Yeah.
And I think we have to have our hands open to the fact that this is an invitation. We're not forcing people to be here. That's how Jesus invites us. So I think we have to bear that in mind when we are going about inviting and listening and keeping that humble posture, because it's really not up to us.
Amen.
So
Beautiful.
in
Beautiful.
any situation of belonging, we're trying to put a hospitable and generous foot forward in everything that we do, because these are people with real lives. I mean, I've been there. I was a deconstructed person.
Yeah.
And so I know what it's like to have people come down my throat and be like, why aren't you at church?
Right.
And I don't get the feeling that's why we're doing this.
Right.
But I think that's just so valuable to keep in mind
Right.
when we're dealing with people. On a practical side, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we don't have to change our whole method, right?
Okay.
We could do something like movie theology night.
Yeah.
We're watching a movie together, and then we're like, hey, where did we see the theme of forgiveness in this? Where did we see hospitality? Where did we see the fruit of the Spirit? And we don't have to frame it that way, because that's churchy,
Yeah.
But we can talk to people on their level.
Yeah.
And we can have, we can write up a study guide that is like, yeah, we could watch a movie together. We could read a book together. We could do these things, because
Yeah.
we're just people, and we're trying
Right.
to figure this out.
Love it.
So, yeah,
Good.
belonging is good.
Les Miserables.
Yes!
Well, we did that. We focused on that for one
And we
month.
should have a sing-along!
And we should have a sing-along. I think we did. Okay, keep going. That's where I want to go, whether it's practical or it's more in-depth philosophical. Great. I see in the back, Victor, Wade in the back there. And then I see Jim there, so we'll go Wade, Jim, and then to the next. Okay.
I think one of the things that we, certainly I did, and I know you've heard me say this before, but looking at that data, that low bar data that you had up there before, a low bar for a Christian community, I think you could change the title of that and call it Broken Relationship.
Yeah.
And the data would kind of come out the same way. Acknowledging that, I think, one of the key elements of this is relationships.
Yeah.
So if you have a broken relationship, it's going to be extremely difficult to have a discussion about coming back to church. You guys know me well enough. If I don't greet you with brother or sister, I'm having a bad day.
Yeah.
But I honestly believe that that's the entry point. I'm going to call you brother, and then let's see where the conversation goes. But without a relationship, or at least establishing an initial one, it's very difficult to have this discussion.
Yeah.
So the data analyst in me, when I look at that data, I'm going, I need to work on the relationship first with my neighbor, with my grandkids, fill in the blank,
Right.
and then ease into that discussion. I know at the men's retreat we talked about this at length, and I kind of went down the same path that I'm going down right now, but having a personal relationship is grand. Having a casual one is a great way to have an entry point, I think,
Yeah.
to having this discussion about getting re-engaged
Yeah.
with our faith vis-a-vis attending church.
Yeah, good, excellent. And so, yeah, that's what we're talking about, like for instance, a movie theology. And you might come and you might start up a more casual, just, oh, I know your name now, relationship, and then that might be. So I'm already hearing we need to have some things before we get someone in an intentional small group that they're gonna be in for 9 months. Something maybe in between, maybe. Yeah, but Wade, talking relationally is perfect. Jim, and then right behind Victor, we got, there we go. Debbie or whoever. Yeah.
What we were talking.
Sorry, Debbie, let me go to Jim and then you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I grew up in early grade school with former Church of Christ,
Talk right to that mic. Turn the mic, there you go.
singing Rock of Ages, and I love to tell the story.
Yeah,
And I think that what we could look at is how we foster people sharing their own experiences of loving to tell the story of Jesus in their life, and feeling comfortable doing that.
right.
That can be hard to do when you come into a group. Say, look at me, this is my story.
Yeah. Yeah, no, helpful, Jim. Helpful. I had one of our members say, Bill, we're just not good at this, Anyway, back in the back, yeah.
Well, we were talking about keeping people here and making activities, small groups more available to younger people, the parents of the young kids. A lot of times they get so busy with what's going on with the kids.
Yeah.
And what about the parents?
Yeah.
That we have, youth groups and sports and things for the kids. But if we could have some small groups in the evening or weekends, because so many of our small groups are during the day when people are working, that could help get people in here socially, or keep people. Because a lot of times I think we lose the younger people because there's nothing, they feel like there's nothing for them. Everything's for older people during the day.
Yeah. Helpful. Good. Let's see. Where are we at? Douglas?
So, yeah, it is on.
Just go real close.
Right. So, can you pull up the numbers for just all the numbers?
You're talking about the slide that you saw earlier today?
Specifically as relates to which denominations are being de-churched.
Oh, okay, that's further back. This one?
Yeah. So here's something these numbers kind of don't tell is, let's say you have 3 people, Alice, Bob, Charlie. Alice and Bob go to church, Charlie doesn't. If Charlie joins and Alice leaves, that's not really going to show up in the numbers, is it? So what this chart doesn't tell you is the fact that Gen Z and Gen Y, or the millennials, are joining the magisterial traditions like Roman Catholicism, Eastern Orthodoxy, and Oriental Orthodoxy in droves. Young people are drawn to tradition and to liturgy because, quite frankly, we're sick of the seeker-sensitive, flashing lights, thumping music, modernity of American evangelicalism. You're smiling.
Well, you're a Gen Zer, so I can't argue with you. Yeah.
Well, why do you think I'm here?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think, Douglas, though, that you are the norm for your generation?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so.
Okay. Well, there's a lot of hope to that.
I don't spend a lot of time online, and people
Some studies are showing that the younger generations are like, no, I'm tired of the rock band, I'm tired of that type of thing.
They are.
But yeah, go ahead.
If I take a plug, if I just do a quick web search.
Yeah.
Gen Z and Orthodox, r/Orthodox Christianity. A millennial's journey to the Orthodox Christian Church. I'm a millennial nun, but I still want Easter. That's a CNN article, and the author says he joined the Eastern Orthodox Church.
Because of the mystery, the ritual,
Yeah.
the stuff. Yeah, there is signs that this might be, coming around.
These results just go on and on
Yeah.
and on. That's just the Eastern Orthodox.
So that's-
You can imagine how prevalent it is
Yeah.
with Roman Catholicism, which is obviously far more well known than Eastern Orthodoxy.
Right.
So my point is, people are joining the magisterial traditions. Why are they joining the the Protestant traditions. And I think that comes down to the American evangelical movement. So if you look at the magisterial Protestant traditions, that is classical Protestantism, like Lutheranism, Presbyterianism, Dutch Reformed, Continental Reformed, so on and so forth, they still, by and large, preserve that line of tradition, that, to some extent, liturgy, especially in the Lutheran churches, and as I would say, in this very parish, which is great and awesome.
Good. No, excellent point. Really well made and really helpful and hopeful, because, you know, it seems like some of the you know, and again, what are Lutherans? Catholic, Protestant, you know, we're kind of, but a lot of our Lutheran churches are throwing in the towel on liturgy and mystery and ritual because they think the boomers don't like it, which they don't. But the generations below, we might throw it out just when the time they're really wanting and looking for it. So I think it's a great point. I want to move on, though. I want to keep going with belonging questions. Oh, I know, Doug. I'm sorry. Do we have one back here?
Real quick, I think
and then here.
one of the things that we could do differently, and some of us may do it already, I know, when we're in the community, when we're at work, the grocery store, wherever we are, talk the church up.
Yeah.
You know, don't preach to people. That turns people off if they don't, you know, if they're not involved. But talk the church up. Talk about how great our church is. Talk about how great
You're
people
excited.
are.
I'm going to this concert tonight. Come on. It's going to be cool. Or I'm going to this. Yeah, absolutely. Very helpful. Let's keep going, because I want to give everybody a shot at this that wants to. Right here and then over here. Yeah. And behind you.
Last church I was on, and we were looking at this kind of issue. I was on a committee. We found that people don't always come in the front door, but they come in the side door, which is our activities. We found if we had our activities in the community,
Sure.
we can draw them in. And it doesn't have to be religious based. It could be a funny play or maybe a school activity or something like that.
Okay, very helpful. Let me just bounce off of that and we'll come over here. For instance, as an example, hey, my church takes affirmation Thanksgiving gifts to some of the local schools, and we're delivering those this week. You want to come? My church does this great reading program where you can, which we do. Did you know that? Yes. Thank you. Community connector, Kathy, over here. And, you know, so absolutely. Hey, we have a community meal. It's free. You want to come? You know, lots of, agree. Let's keep going.
I was just going to say.
Go real close, yeah.
I think all of these things are wonderful, but I would say my experience has been that what's really important is a feeling of inclusion. So, for example, these ladies I'm sitting with today are very inclusive. They introduce themselves to me.
Yeah.
We talk to each. Priscilla I met at the women's retreat.
Yeah.
And so when you're a stranger and you don't know anybody, if somebody introduces themselves and then says, we were just talking about,
Yeah.
then you don't feel so strange.
Yeah, you don't see it. You feel that barrier gets broken down.
So those little things
Yeah.
are very important.
Excellent. Really good. Mike, right here, and then Joyce here. You can, and then over here. Okay, good. Mike, you go. Yep. And then we'll here, and then Victor, come up here.
Just building on that,
Yep.
the couple we've introduced ourselves to here, I would like to encourage, new to the church, encourage people to join your foundations class as a way of meeting, right at the get-go.
Yeah.
A small group of people that they can become friendly with, get to know, and go on from there. I think
Yeah.
that would be a real help.
Excellent. And it does work that way sometimes. We got here and then there. Okay. Yes.
At our church, when we suffered COVID and we had to close and everything was virtual,
Yeah.
I personally didn't like virtual. I found my mind wandering. When we went back, we normally had a traditional service first and then a non-traditional after that. And what we did when we went back, we closed to one service because our census was so low, and it's a combination of traditional and modern. Now, that's a way, we don't have many young people, we're trying to get them in, but that might be a way for you to draw some of your young people in, is include some of the, you know,
Praise songs.
yeah, those.
That is-
Guitar and
yeah.
drums and the whole 9 yards.
Which we do once a month. We have a pickers group, and then another Sunday we have the worship band. So 2 out of the 4 are kind of different kinds of music styles. But again, that might attract people, but specifically belonging. How do we help?
Yeah, I want to answer that question.
Okay.
But also, I want to say,
Oops, sorry.
we have more programs, more outreach than most churches that I've ever been to.
Yeah.
I mean it.
Well, we're that size church for sure.
So, for people not to have a sense of belonging kind of baffles me. However, we were talking among ourselves about reinstigating the tables of 8. If you're not familiar with
Yeah, oh,
that.
I'm familiar with it. Yeah, you got some thumbs up back there. Yeah.
And that helps to bring a sense of belonging. I know it's for older people. I wish we could include children, but maybe we could. And maybe we could do it at our church.
Great. So if that's that in between a more committed small group and you know a way to connect with other people, maybe other people of your generation, or maybe what's really cool. I love it when we have groups that have 20-year-olds and 80-year-olds together. But there is something to getting, having a connection with people in your life situation. Very helpful. If a group want to form tables of 8, have at it. Okay, some more on specific belonging. Did we miss any here?
Right here.
Right here? Oh, Kelly, yeah. I guess your group wants you to say
Well, we
something.
separated, and I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
So we used to do coffee after church.
Yes?
So they left the coffee on and you could come in here and hang out for a little bit while they cleaned up communion and picked up the bulletins and such. And that was sort of nice. It wasn't like a big group of people, like maybe 20 people would come in and have coffee after church and visit.
Yeah. Yes, that was started for folks after the late service, because we have that for the early service, and it died out at COVID, and then never got reinstituted. I gotta move us. If you have more ideas, sorry Douglas, I gotta move us, because I want to get this last section on, and we can keep this conversation going. Part of this is, being intentional about helping people connect with each other. And I know that's something I think about as a pastor, and programmatically, we've got a wonderful staff that's doing a lot of stuff, but really this comes down to people in the congregation going, I want to do dinners of 8, and let's go. I mean, we're not going to stop. We're going to help you, but it's going to be like the energy's got to come from the congregation there. I'm going to call out, because it probably doesn't completely exist anymore, but Darlene and Jack Britt.
Yes.
Okay, well they had, was it Pinnacle? No, it was Card Group, and then, and Darlene invited just about everybody to that group. And it got a lot of people in the church, because it created relationships. It's that type of thing that we need to think about. But anyway, this is really helpful. But I want to, now that we've talked about belonging, give a little bit of attention before we finish. And that is that a lot of churches are really great at belonging. Even maybe going back to what Bethany said, a little too great. Like, you will be here, And even small groups, like I know when I talked to Pastor Ron, he said that some of his folks that are coming from more American evangelical churches are like so burnt out on small groups, because it's like, You know, like people always tell me at New Life, you know, one of our big mega churches here, oh, it's so impersonal. No, it's not. You go to that church and you get in a small group, and that becomes your people. So they have grown big by growing smaller. But it's almost like legalistically you have to be in a small group. And I don't want to go there. We're Lutherans. We want people to be free. We want people to be invited. But having and encouraging, even I'm going to go on to say, if you're in a small group, my small group, people are going to get me. They're going to get me. And you've been meeting for 5-6 years with the same people. Maybe it's time to start a new one. Okay, I know, I'm done. You're going to kill me. Or maybe, at least, let's spin off a group and have two households start a new group. Because you're saving their life. Because you are providing relationships to get them through the tough times when they're going to stay together. So there's all kinds of things we can come at this. But a lot of churches are almost too good at it. And they'll do anything to get you to belong, but where's the belief? Where's the, so we tend to fall off either side of the horse. So one side, is belong, and the other side is belief. We need to hold these up together. And I want to go back to say that even though a lot of people de-church because they don't feel they belong, when you come to a church and you don't just get law, you better do this, you better do that, or you better be in a small group, or or this is 5 ways to do this, or whatever, and you actually hear the gospel that Jesus has taken you into himself in word and sacrament, that's really what we're giving you when you come to worship. That's what you need, not just to have your morals shaped up for a few hours, although that would be good, but that we need that connection. Well, when people start getting that, and I think sometimes they don't get it because they don't know what they're looking for to get it. Or, like, for instance, the Lord's Supper. Oh, it's just bread and wine. I didn't feel. Well, but if you get present to what the promise is that, then you are going to feel like you belong. You are going to feel like you belong. It's like, wow, that's what happens in the Lord's Supper? Jesus, God, second person of the Trinity, becomes someplace for me? That really happens? If we can help people understand that's what's happening, then they feel like they belong. Then I need that. But I think a lot of people forget that's what we're about. So I think being who we are, worshiping is going to, and we help people be present to that, I think that really helps us in this tension. Okay. I wanted to get that in there. We're just about done. Douglas, you were going crazy back there. Do we got a mic? We can get back to Douglas.
If I just speak really loud, can you guys hear me up front?
Just go ahead and start. Go ahead and start.
So,
Patrick, go back.
Here, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
I've got some actionable suggestions for you.
Okay.
What do we have in the front foyer? Narthex, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
It's on.
It is on. Terrific. Okay, so we've got, for example, those Wednesday meals, right? Those meals, you can hand them out. So this is going to sound like I'm going totally off on a tangent. I promise you I'm not. James 2:24.
Well, you only have a couple minutes, so you better make a quick one.
Right. What's James 2:24?
Yep.
What does Martin Luther say about that? God doesn't need your good works, but your neighbor sure does.
That's amen.
So,
that's
here's
right.
a question. Here's not a question, suggestion. That's the word I'm
Yeah,
looking for.
yeah.
I'm not very good at words. It looks like I am. I'm not. Involve your neighbor in acts of service. So, for example, grab a friend. It doesn't matter who. Someone who doesn't go to church.
Hold the mic up to your mouth, please.
Thank you. Grab a friend of yours, someone who doesn't go to church. Involve them in acts of service. I don't know if you know this or not. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Peninsula Bible Fellowship on 303 near Bremerton.
Yeah.
Many of you don't know this. My family, many years ago, was pretty heavily involved with their various ministries. Their single largest contributor of membership wasn't the big gatherings, wasn't the big parties, wasn't the big events. it was service. For example, the high school ministry led by Charlie Sponsel did an entire 3 days of contributing to the Port Gamble biking and recreation area. We got, well, PDF got something like 20 new members from that.
Yeah,
It is,
it's a great
It's
suggestion.
acts of service. It's not
Yes.
parties. It's not casual gatherings. It's stuff that's actually meaningful. James
Amen.
2:24.
Perfect. Okay, I gotta stop you.
God doesn't need your good works, but your neighbor
I know.
sure does.
Thank you, Douglas. Thank you. That was beautiful. Because you're absolutely right. Acts of service is a place of invitation. It is. And then that becomes belonging. And then that becomes hearing the word. So I think this is a really good. I put up some concrete things we need to think about, work on. Please be praying about that. How can you engage with this? Next week we're going to talk more about theological disconnects and how do we help people who are having those de-churching factors. Okay, and then we'll see where we want to go after that. Thank you everybody that contributed. I've written down a lot of notes. Again, I hope you have too in your head, I wonder how I could help with this. Go in peace, serve the Lord. All right.